Okay, so in this video, you'll learn what are the different currency pairs out there. So currency pairs can be divided into three categories. Number one is what I call, or rather what is known as the major currency pairs. Then you have the crosses, and then finally the exotic currency pairs. So let's look at them right in more details. So the major currency pairs, right, is basically the currency which is the most traded in the world, right? So there are about 7 major currency pairs, and the first one is being euro dollar. So you can see that this is euro against the USD. It's called the euro dollar. The British pound against the USD, pound dollar. Dollar Swissy, right? Dollar against the Swiss franc. Dollar against the Japanese yen, dollar yen. Aussie dollar, Aussie against the dollar. New Zealand dollar, otherwise known as the Kiwi. And then dollar Canadian, known as the loonie. So one thing to point out is that among these are 7 major currency pairs, but the bulk of the transaction are usually within this top 4. So these are usually the most liquid currency pairs there is out there: the euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar Swiss, and dollar yen. And you can see this over here, right? This is taken from the Bank of International Settlements, from the BIS. This is where I got my source from. I should have written this somewhere. Taken from the BIS website. So this basically, you can see that the USD, right, in 2016, right, 87.6% of all transaction, right, is USD transaction, right? About 31% is a Euro transaction, 21% Japanese yen, about 13% the British pound, which I mentioned earlier that this top 4 are basically where the most number of transactions are done. And then you have the Aussie dollar, Canadian, Swiss franc, Chinese yuan, Swedish kroner, and then New Zealand dollar. So usually, right, I would say these are the top 4 that make the bulk of the transaction. But if you want to see the top 10, is basically, right, these are the top 10 currencies, right, that basically have the largest share of the average daily turnover in the Forex market, right? But you can see, right, mainly it's just USD, Euro, Yen, and Pound. So with that said, that's for the major currencies. How about the cross-currency pairs? So what is a cross-currency pair? A cross-currency pair basically means that it is a non-USD pair. So for example, you can have something that is called the Euro crosses, right? Euro Swiss, right? The Euro against the Swiss franc, Euro against the British pound, Euro against the Aussie, right? So I've just shared with you 3 examples, but the main gist over here is basically, right, this is Euro cross because they all have a Euro denomination across these 3 currency pairs. Then you have yen crosses, right, where basically you have yen as a common denominator, right? Euro yen, pound yen, Aussie yen. You can even have pound crosses, pound Aussie, pound New Zealand, pound Canadian. So you can have all the different type of crosses, New Zealand crosses, Aussie crosses, African rand crosses, and stuff like that. So the main idea of cross currency pairs is that it is a non-USD pair, and there should have a theme that is related to it, whether it's a Euro cross, yen cross, or pound cross, or whatsoever. Now, what about exotic currency pairs, right? It sounds exotic, right? So don't let your mind wander, right? Exotic currency pairs basically refers to currency pairs in developing countries, right? Most of the time. So you have exotic currency pairs like dollar against the African rand, right? This is not a major currency pair, even though there's a USD here, because this African rand is a exotic currency. So we classify this under exotic currency pairs, right? Dollar African rand, dollar Mexican, right? Dollar against the Thai baht. You can see that generally it's all countries which are classified as developing nation, right? So these are what we call the exotic currency pairs. And one thing to note is that these exotic currency pairs, their spread tends to be wider because they are not actively traded like the major currency pairs. So don't be surprised if you see the spread on these pairs like few hundred pips. It's quite normal actually. So with that said, right, here's a quick recap. Right, we've talked about the major currency pairs, right? Namely the 7 major currency pairs: the Euro, Pound, Japanese yen, Swiss franc, Aussie, New Zealand, and Canadian. Okay, and I said that the bulk of the transaction are usually on these 4 major currencies, right? The Euro, the Pound, the Japanese yen, and the Swiss franc. Let's call this CHF, right? So these are the 4 major currencies that take the bulk of the daily turnover in the FX market. Then we spoke about crosses, right? Crosses, is basically non-USD pairs, right? They can be a Euro cross, Pound cross, Aussie cross, or whatsoever, as long as there is no USD involved. And finally, I spoke about exotic currency pairs, right? These are typically currency pairs in developing nation, like, African rand, dollar Mexican, and stuff like that. Okay, so with that said, I have come to the end of this video, and I'll see you in the next.